What's going on, guys? My name is Alex, and today I'm going to show you how you can replace the sky in Photoshop so that you can make your photos that much more dramatic. Stay tuned. What's up, guys? Alex here, and welcome to my channel where I make Photoshop and Lightroom tutorials as well as other videos such as tech reviews, tips and tricks videos pertaining to digital art, photography, and videography. I'll also be doing vlogs about behind the scenes stuff like when I go out to shoot, when I travel, my daily life, etc. So if you're into any of those things, I'd really appreciate it if you guys hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you won't miss any future uploads. And if you like this video and feel that you learned something from it, hit the like button and leave a comment below. But alright, enough with all the intro stuff, let's get right into the video. Alright guys, so now that we're in Photoshop, the first thing we have to do is we have to pop open the images that we're going to be using for this project. So I'm just going to hit File, Open. I have the images in my Downloads folder, and both these images are going to be available for download. Just check the description below so you guys can follow along the tutorial if that's what you want to do. If not, you guys could use them for practice or whatever. I get all my images from mostly Unsplash, Pexels, or Pixabay. And these two specifically are from Unsplash. Okay, so this is going to be the foreground layer that we're going to be working with. We're going to be replacing this overcast whitish grayish sky with this more dramatic blue sky here, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my foreground layer and I'm going to select the quick selection tool. I'm going to hit W on my keyboard, and the reason why I'm using the quick selection tool is because the sky here is pretty much like a grayish white, and the foreground here is pretty contrasty compared to the sky, so I'm pretty sure that the quick selection tool will work pretty well. So to use the quick selection tool, we just click and we drag across the white sky, and you can see that Photoshop does a pretty good job at selecting the sky alone, right? So now that we have the sky selected, what we're going to do is we're going to hit the mask button here. Right now we're gonna end up masking out the mountains here, but that's okay, because if you hit Control or Command I on your keyboard, it will invert the mask and bring back your foreground, your mountains, and keep the sky away here. Alright, so now that we have the mountain selected, the sky is in here, we're gonna move over to our sky layer here. And what I usually like to do is I like to select out just the parts that I'm 100% sure I'm gonna use. So I'm going to be using up to this part right here, right? So I just took the rectangular marquee tool, I made a selection right here, and now all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the mask button again, and that gets rid of the trees at the very bottom there. And I know I'm not really going to be needing this mask right here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the mask, right click on the mask, and right click on the mask, and hit apply layer mask here. Right, so that pretty much just converges the whole layer here. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it. So I'm going to hit the C on my keyboard, and I'm just going to drag up to about right here and hit OK. And the reason why I cropped it and got rid of it is because I know from experience that I'm just going to be using this portion of the sky here, and I won't really need to be feathering or masking up to where the trees were. I'm not really using those. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag this layer into my projects panel. It's going to appear up here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move it below the mountains here. I'm going to hit Control T on my keyboard or Command T for Mac, and I'm going to bring it up about right there, right? So if I hit Control minus to increase my window, I'm going to go shift click right here just to make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to hit OK up here, right? Alright, perfect. So now that we have the sky in the back right there, so as you can see, that was just a quick 2-minute thing where we were able to select out the sky from this foreground and replace it with this sky here. Now if you guys want to go a little bit more in depth to try to make them a little bit more realistic, what I would usually suggest is that you guys try to match the color of the foreground to your sky, which is what I usually do. And to do that, I'm going to click on my foreground layer. I'm going to click down here for the adjustments layer. I'm going to hit the curves. I'm going to clip it to my foreground right here. This is the clip button, which means that it'll only affect this layer, not any other layers below or above. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the colors here. So I'm going to go to my red channel here, since I know there's a little bit of reds in these highlights and these shadows, and I want it to be a little bit more blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the highlight point up here. I'm going to drag it down a little bit to add a little bit more cyan into the image. So somewhere around there is good. And I'm gonna take the shadow point, I'm gonna move it to the right to add a little bit more cyan to the shadows to give it a little bit more of blue, like a bluish cast there, to kind of get rid of that stuff there. And then I'm gonna go over to my blues and I'm gonna increase the blues in the shadow. So I'm gonna take this point and I'm gonna pull it up a little bit, give it a little bit more blue, and I'm gonna take the highlight point, I'm gonna move it to the left a little bit, maybe somewhere around there. Right, so as you can see, now that there's a blue cast, it looks a little bit more blend together very well right there, right? And if you want to blend the whole thing together, you can throw a curves layer on top of everything, right? Don't clip it to anything because you want it to affect both your sky and your foreground. And this curves layer is just here to serve as like an all around blending. So what I usually like to do is I like to lift the shadows a little bit, because I like to matte out my shadows. That's how I like to edit. And I would go to the midtones and I'll bring it down just a little bit, and then I'll take my highlights and I'll add a little bit of contrast by moving it to the left there. And as you can see, it pretty much blends the whole image together. So if you click this off and then you click it back on, you can see that everything is pretty much blend well together. And pretty much, guys, that is how you replace a sky in Photoshop. Very simple, but it's a very powerful technique to incorporate into your edits, even if you're a photographer, because maybe someday you'll go out and get this banger shot of, say, something like this, but then you went out there and the sky was overcast and it just doesn't do your picture any justice. You might want to replace the sky. So this is a very good technique to learn. So yeah, all right guys, well that is the end of this tutorial. If you guys liked what you saw and if you found this helpful, it'd definitely be awesome if you guys go hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want, you guys can leave me a comment below. I reply to all my comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.